I've often said that the great General Douglas MacArthur and the great General George Patton would be in a state of shock if they were alive today to see the way President Obama and Hillary Clinton try to recklessly announce their every move before it happens, like they did in Iraq, so that the enemy can prepare and adapt. Their enemy says thank you.
Donald Trump has been at war since the first moment he stepped onto a podium and announced he was running for president of the United States. A war on President Barack Obama and his policies. A war on Hillary Clinton and her seeming cavalier attitude towards telling the truth. A war about building a wall and protecting America as he sees fit. And a war against those from overseas who would consider us an easy target. But now, he has gone seriously to ground in a battle with the one entity that helped make him what he is today, but he perceives has turned on him with every barrel loaded to see him defeated. The fight between Donald Trump and the media is now in full swing in a frontal assault. But will anything he says at this point really change the narrative and get him more votes? Let's get to work. Our guest is former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Shillman Senior Fellow with the Investigative Project on Terrorism, Pete Hoekstra, joined by the health policy expert and former Lieutenant Governor of New York State, my old home, Betsy McCaughey. I want to thank you both for joining us. Let's get to work. All right, Betsy, I'm going to go ahead and start out with you. Donald Trump is placing his low poll numbers, and they are frighteningly low in some places, specifically such as New York State. He's placing all the fault squarely on the media. His tweet out yesterday, "If the disgusting and corrupt media covered me honestly and didn't put false meaning into the words I say, I would be beating Hillary by 20%. Okay, I'll play. Let's go ahead and play devil's advocate here. What do they say that's so wrong if all they're doing is reporting exactly what he says?
Well, the fact is, if they were reporting what he says, they'd be focusing a lot more on substance. For example, take the speech he gave today on foreign policy. It was a terrific speech. It went head on, outlining how Obama and Hillary Clinton have set us back so far in the Middle East, how their policies are inviting in hundreds of thousands of refugees who are denying our values, who are hostile to our values, who are threatening our security right here inside the United States. And he presented a thorough and convincing plan to reverse their mistakes and ensure a safety here.
All right. What you're saying would be considered exactly right by a number of people. You're right about the speech today. But, Pete, I'm going to bounce it to you, though, on this answer, and again, follow up. What he has said in the past, Donald Trump has made off-the-cuff statements that absolutely demand that somebody report on what he's saying if he wants to become president of the United States. So, Pete, doesn't he then in many ways have to stop saying things that they can nail him on? Stop giving them any ammunition.
Well, if you're going to stop them from having any ammunition, basically what Donald Trump would have to do is, and any candidate would have to do, is to basically shut up. They can take the words of any candidate and twist them in whatever way they want. I was just watching Steve King today, and last week I think it was Steve King is a congressman from Iowa. And for a week they were playing, Steve King says he can work with Hillary Clinton. Today he was given an opportunity to explain that comment, and someone asked, are you saying you can work with Hillary Clinton? And he said, yeah, but they took it out of context. They forgot the whole precedent of the statement, which was, I disagree with her on everything that she stands for, and if by some way she becomes president instead of Donald Trump, yes, I can work with her. Whereas the media portrayed it as Steve King says he's ready and willing to work with Hillary Clinton as if he was opposed to Donald Trump. No, they have unfairly taken Mr. Trump's words about whether it's the Second Amendment, whether it's the founding of ISIS, and twisted them in such a way that they've taken it out of context and make it look like he's just shooting from the hip.
Okay.
Mr. Trump.
Betsy talked a little bit about
these things.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Betsy also talked about the speech today. Betsy, before I come back to you, let me get Pete's take on this. Your take, though, Pete, on what Donald Trump announced today with regard to foreign policy and immigration.
I actually think that Mr. Trump today gave a great speech. I've talked with a number of my former colleagues and people who are professionals in this area, and he laid out a very good plan. He laid out a very accurate picture of what the threat is, how you confront it, how you can defeat it, and he also laid out a very good analysis of what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did that have gotten us into this mess 7.5 years after they took office. We're losing. We're not winning. He laid out a strategy that can get us back to winning.
Betsy, with regard to the speech today, one of the things he did say today, Donald Trump, he accused the Democrats of creating a, quote, vacuum to let terrorism grow and thrive. Here comes the other side of this again, playing the devil's advocate. Why would anybody want to help terrorism grow and thrive?
Well, because of an ideological blindness. You can see it in both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, particularly in Barack Obama's 2009 apology tour. Both of these people are so eager to demonstrate their conciliatory policies toward other ethnic groups, other religions of the world, other cultures, that they don't recognize an enemy sworn to destroy us when they see that enemy. And that's exactly what's happened in the Middle East, particularly with Barack Obama's arming Iran with $150 billion, and now the ransom payments, in addition, another $400 million or so. We're handing our enemy the weapon to destroy us.
Anybody wants to join us? You're more than welcome to. 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-NEWSMAX if you want to chime in. Betsy, I'm going to stay with you on this here because we'll get back to the media. Something else with regard to Paul Manafort. Donald Trump's campaign chairman broke this morning in the New York Times regarding the fact that he may, and they were quite frank about it. They did not say that he did take money, but they indicated handwritten ledgers showing almost $13 million in undisclosed cash payments designated for Paul Manafort from the former president, Viktor Yanukovych, who is known far and wide as being somebody who absolutely lives and thrives on corruption. Manafort came back today.
Compared with what Hillary and Bill Clinton have taken.
Let me finish, please.
And documented and admitted to taking from corrupt regimes around the world.
Let me finish, please, Betsy, because I'm going to go ahead and make a point. Paul Manafort, you didn't let me get this in. Paul Manafort denied everything. He blasted the New York Times coming back, basically saying that they've chosen to purposely ignore facts and professional journalism to fit their political agenda. It is absolutely possible that this is, as some would call it, nothing more than a hit piece by the New York Times, and it's well placed. It's also possible that there is fact behind it. Betsy, would it not have served Donald Trump better to make sure that this was all vetted, to make sure that this didn't come up in the campaign? Because this is the kind of a distraction that Donald Trump, no candidate, needs.
Well, actually, if it's simply invented, there's nothing that Donald Trump could do about it. Secondly, even if it does come up, it simply highlights how minuscule this issue is compared with the hundreds of millions of dollars that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have taken.
But that's in the past, Betsy. Don't you think? Wait a minute. When you say that something is not necessary, hang on, Betsy. When you say that, when you're talking about the Clintons' millions of dollars, we get that. That has been talked about well before. But you don't think it's a big deal that a guy. You don't think it's a big deal that a guy may have taken $13 million in illegal cash? May have. Okay. Pete, let me get your take on this, because Betsy certainly says absolutely this is ridiculous. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't actually say that, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's what you said.
Anyway.
There you go. Okay, go ahead, Pete.
Well, number one, I can't hear what Betsy's saying, so
okay. Well, she basically took the whole report to task here, saying that why talk about this when the Clintons, in her opinion, and in the reports of many, have taken millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars in the past, that this, in her essence, is no big deal.
Well, number one, they're saying they may have. He may have.
Correct.
It's kind of like, let's get to the bottom of this. And let's, if they're going to get into this kind of journalism, then play it even-handed. Go after Manafort, go after the Clintons, go after the Clinton Foundation, and all of these types of things. But do it even in a professional, journalistic way, not just a hit piece on the Trump campaign, and then let the facts fall where they may. But just, putting it out and putting all of this kind of emphasis on Manafort may have, and there's no substance to it. These are the kinds of things a campaign can't vet beforehand because they're unsubstantiated. There may not be an element of truth to them at all, but we're talking about it. Talk about the issues.
And there may be truth to it because they claim to have handwritten ledgers showing the money there. But again, I want to point out they have yet to determine if he actually received any cash. That is absolutely in the report. I got about 90 seconds left. Very quickly as we move ahead here. Donald Trump now moves ahead, but there are people, Betsy, who are saying that he doesn't have much of a team on the ground in a lot of states. They're calling it the B team, and they're saying that many of these people don't know who he has running his campaign at the ground level. Isn't that dangerous?
Look, we're 3 presidential debates and almost 3 months away from the election. I think it's very premature to make a judgment about Donald Trump's ground game in the general election.
All right, Pete, the same question goes to you.
Can I just add to that?
Go ahead.
All right.
Please.
They call it the B team. I'm sorry, the B team beat Jeb Bush. The B team beat John Kasich. The B team beat Ted Cruz. I'll tell you, that's not a bad B team to start with. Obviously, they've got to ramp it up for a national campaign, but this campaign's been pretty successful for what, they've characterized as scapegoats and spinoffs from other campaigns. They won, and they won impressively. And I give Donald Trump credit for sticking with the team that got him here. Now he's got to build it out, and they'll be fine.
No one's going to argue how badly he beat everybody else. You got that right on the nose. Betsy McCaughey, Pete Hoekstra, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Hey, a special program reminder for our DirecTV viewers. Newsmax TV shows have moved to channel 366. Forget we're moving. We've already moved. Primetime Monday through Friday on channel 366 JLTV. Look for all the interviews, all the commentary you've come to expect right there on channel 366 JLTV. Make sure you join us. Tell your friends, too, to make sure that they go ahead and join us there on DirecTV. On deck, with all this talk about the rigging of a national election, let's start small with what could be done about those questions, the answers, and those things that everybody pays attention to, but everybody says could be all fake to begin with. We'll tell you what that is when we come back right here on The Hardline.